I was never a big fan of the high frame rate mode or the HFR mode on the Sony ZV-1 until I figured out what you can do with it if you light your subject properly. All of that was shot on the Sony ZV-1 in HFR 960 frames per second, and I'm going to show you exactly how I got those shots, how I lit the subject, and how I set up the camera. Now 960 frames per second is going to be the most frames per second that you can get out of the Sony ZV-1, but it's also going to be the worst quality image compared to the other two options, which is 240 and 480. If you were to use 240 or 480, your image quality is going to be a lot better. It's just not going to go as slow. When I first started using the HFR mode, I wasn't that impressed because it only gives you a very short window of time for you to record, and also the image quality wasn't that good. But I found some workarounds that will really help you better use HFR mode so that you can get it for B-roll shots or YouTube videos, or if you're just messing around. When I pulled my lights out and lit the subject very intentionally, I was like, oh my gosh, when I saw the footage. In fact, I'm thinking about just making a bunch of short YouTube videos of like super slow motion stuff using the Sony ZV-1. So let me know if that's something that you guys are interested in the comments below. So first, let me show you how I set up the camera internally so that you can also achieve some of these super slow-mo shots. I'm actually using the same settings as another YouTuber named Vic Berry who showed us how to do it in the Sony ZV-1. So I'm gonna leave the link to his video and his channel in the description so you can go check him out. If you've been liking my videos on the Sony ZV-1, then I'm sure you're gonna enjoy his videos. So when you turn on the ZV-1, go to Menu, Tab 2, Page 1, scroll down to HFR settings, change the record settings to 60 frames per second. Changing it to 60 frames per second allows you to slow it down even further in post, so make sure that you do that. Change the frame rate to 960 frames per second or whatever you would like to use. Just know the lower in frame rates you go, the better quality of the image. If you use 960 frames per second, the lowest shutter speed you can go is 1000. Go to priority setting. I left it to quality because I like quality better than the amount of time it records. And for record timing, change it to end trigger. This is where the camera records what happened just a second before you actually press the record button, which is kind of crazy if you think about it. But it's important to use the end trigger because you want to be able to see what happens first and then record, so you're not constantly recording retakes until you get that perfect shot. Now that we have our settings, go to mode and select HFR. And I actually used auto exposure or program auto because it looked good to me, and that was just one less thing I had to worry about when I was framing out the shots. Now that we have our settings in the camera, it's time to light our subject. I actually just picked up a VL150 from Godox and a parabolic softbox from Pergear, which are relatively cheap compared to other lighting systems that are on the market. So I'll leave that stuff in the description in case you guys want to check it out if you're in the market for a good lighting system. I used a lot of manual focus in this video. So if you don't know how to use manual focus on the Sony ZV-1, I've made a video about it, and I'll leave that in the description so you guys can take a look at it after you're done with this video. The very first thing that I did in order to get that water drip shot was I poured water into this glass cup to the point where it was overflowing so that I had a little bit of water protruding the top of the lid. The next thing that I did was I set up my light at a 90-degree angle so the light would hit the drop. As the drop was falling, it would have like a sparkle to it. I thought that would be pretty cool. And it also lights my water nicely because it goes right across the horizon. Next, I set up a straw in the center of the cup so that I could focus on the center of the cup. If I didn't do this, my ZV-1 would probably focus on the front of the cup, and that would mean that the drip, when it hits the water, would be out of focus. So after I set the straw right in the center, I switched the ZV-1 to manual focus. I switch on focus assist, and then I just toggle it until I see the straw is in focus. And then once we're focused, I'll remove the straw, take the dropper, try to hit the center of the cup, and then press record. So we'll see what that looks like. Okay, so I'm happy with that shot. Now, because we set up our record setting to 60 frames per second, we can actually slow this down even further to 40% in post. Also, there's a feature in Final Cut Pro and Premiere Pro called optical flow. And anytime that you use water or splashing or anything like that, or a drip, you can actually slow it down even further without any stuttering at all. So I was able to slow down this secondary water drip to about 10%, use the optical flow, and it gave it the appearance that the water drip was actually hovering down. So it's a little cool feature that you might not know about. I use it all the time whenever I'm shooting any type of water. Now let's go get the next shot. Okay, so for this next shot, I set up the light right over the shoulder of the ZV-1, kind of hitting it at a different angle so that it gives the subject some shadows and some cinematic lighting type of look. I'm also making sure that the background is a different color than my subject so that you can see the depth of field and it gives it more detail. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put my cup down. I'm gonna figure out exactly where I want my focus window so that when the cup spins through the focus window, the ZV-1 captures it. If I left the ZV-1 in autofocus, when I took the cup away to spin it, the ZV-1 would focus on the background and then the cup would be out of focus for our slow motion shot. So I'm gonna put it right about there. As soon as it's autofocus, I'm gonna switch it over to manual focus, click on the select button. Now I know my focus window is somewhere in this area. So I think that looks pretty good. We're gonna go take a look at it in post, give it a little color grade, and see if we can bring out some of that detail in the cup and make it a little bit sharper so our image is nice and crisp. Let's go get the next shot. So for these drill shots, they're almost like macro shots. So you wanna make sure that you pull your focus as close to the lens as possible. I also wanna make sure that my lens isn't hitting the wood because then it would give it vibration. So I'll put it like right there. I'll set my drill bit up where I think a good spot for the hole would be, frame out the shot. Then I'm going to hit the focus standard and I'm going to just toggle it until that drill bit comes into focus. Right about there. I'm gonna go ahead and drill down. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good. Now I set my light up on the left side of the wood so that it could cast a light across the plane of the wood and give those little splinters some shadowing, which made it look a little bit more cinematic. I'm also using Cine 2 for this video because it's so easy to color grade and it gives you a little bit more dynamic range than if I was just shooting straight out of camera. I'll leave those settings in the description. Now I'm gonna show you another shot that I got with the drill bit where I actually punctured the wood with the drill bit. This is how I got that shot. We're actually gonna use the drill bit and come out somewhere in this wood, and we have to try to predict where that spot is so that we can manually focus on that spot, kind of like surgically figure out where it is. Now I had to do this a couple of different times because I kept on missing my spot, but the way that I figured out the best way to do it is to go ahead, go about 3/4 of the way through with the drill, I can see my spot right there, so I'm just gonna mark it with a pencil, just a little dot. Now I'm going to find that spot with the Sony ZV-1 using the manual focus. Right there. Bring it through, and then go ahead and press record. All right, so I love that shot. You could probably make an entire YouTube channel using the Sony ZV-1, just drilling holes through stuff. Hey, if you guys would like to see that, leave it in the comments. Let's go get the next shot. So I do end up throwing a little bit of sharpness on each of these clips in post to bring back some of that quality fall off, but as long as you light it enough, you shouldn't have any issues. If you don't have a good lighting system, you could use like sunlight from a window, or you could even go outside to get some of these high frame rate shots. So for this shot, the first thing that I did was I set up the ZV-1 on a tripod, and I extended the arm out so that it wouldn't be touching the table at all, because if I did, then it would have vibrations. I set up the ZV-1 so that it would be focusing right on the edge here, and that's where I'm going to use my hacksaw. I also took the softbox off of the Godox light, and I placed it on the ground, shooting it straight up at the bottom of the wood to give it a nice hard light so that when the blade cut through the wood, you would see those splinters falling. Kind of like one of those cinematic commercials you might see. So the way I'm gonna do it is turn it on. I've already set the focus on the ZV-1, so we're ready to go. Press record and we'll see what it looks like. I think that looks pretty cool. And now we're gonna get an undershot. I set up the ZV-1 so that it's looking right underneath the wood again. I'm making sure that there's a little bit of a dark background so you can see some of those wood shavings as they fall. And I also turned my Godox light on, shooting at the bottom of the wood again to give more detail to those wood shavings. So this is how you would get that shot. I've already manually focused on this spot right here. It just goes to show that the Sony ZV-1 has so many different little features to it that you can use to take your videos to the next level, whether it's HFR or macro videography, or just using it as a B cam for your more expensive camera. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. I'm Joe with Potter Made. Thank you so much for watching, and let's grow as we go. Peace.